is Valeria Schiller. I am an art historian and curator of contemporary art. Here I want to talk about art during the revolution turmoils to trace what was happening around that period of time. I think it's interesting to see how art encapsulates political events that tend to be lost in the avalanche of other tragic news and can be quickly forgotten. In this lecture, I want to focus on how art and alarmingly real context are intertwined and tell a little bit about the history of contemporary Ukraine through several art pieces or sometimes reactionary artistic movements. The year 2004 in Ukraine is marked as the year of the Orange Revolution. The causes that provoked thousands of people to join the demonstration on the main square of the capital were mass corruption and unprecedented electoral fraud. But in general, the main aim of the protesters was the desire to choose a pro-European path instead of leaning into economic and political relations with Russia. Right there, the rap art group was formed. The name of the group is an abbreviation and translates as Revolutionary Experimental Space. In the beginning, the art group had 20 artists at the time of its creation. The core of the group that stayed and continued to function after the revolution were Lesia Homenko, Жанна Kadyrova, Nikita Kadan, Lada Nakoniechna, Vladimir Kuznetsov, Ksenia Gnilitska. Each of these artists developed independent careers of their own nowadays. During the action We Will Rap You that happened in 2005, the artists came to the Maidan, the main square in Kyiv, with banners with absurd art-related demands. For example, "We demand sacrifices" or "Every person is an artist," referring to Joseph Beuys. The action, which took place at the same time and next to the rallies of both nationalists and communists and caused dissatisfaction with both, led to the conflict. Another important project is Hudrada, a curatorial union and activist interdisciplinary group. Hudrada's members are architects, political activists, translators, writers, designers, and artists. None of the participants was building a professional curatorial career. Projects organized by Hudrada are based on discussion, combining the experience of participants. These projects have forms of exhibitions, mostly, which become a platform for theoretical work and public campaign using posters and screenings in city space. In 2012, 2 years before the annexation of Crimea, Hudrada presented the exhibition Disputed Territory at the Art Museum of Kroshitsky in Sevastopol, Crimea. Now, knowing what happened later, the title of the exhibition may sound like a prophecy. But after reading the concept, it's getting clear that the exhibition was not literally or maybe not directly talking about the Crimea being the disputed territory. Rather, the exhibition presented the possibility of having a range of opinions coexisting concerning social relations, exclusion, marginalization, gender and sexuality, the war of private and public interests, conflicts of xenophobia, public space and its appropriation, civic political activist choices, and the field of power. But let's zoom out and look at what was happening in other regions of Ukraine. Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine, located in the east of the country, only 26 kilometers from the Russian border. Even though cultural life at the beginning of the 2000s in Ukraine was mostly centralized in its capital, Kyiv, Kharkiv continued to be a crucial cultural center. Possibly the reason for this was the rich history of the city. From December 1919 to January 1934, Kharkiv was the first capital of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. This influenced the flourishing of the avant-garde scene here. Here were located the most important theatrical, literature, and visual artistic avant-garde centers of the beginning of the 20th century. In Kharkiv, the Ukrainian art group Soska started to form. The name of the group refers to SOS, an internationally used distress signal, but at the same time, Soska literally translates as pacifier, an item used to suckle babies to make them feel calm. Soska began to form in 2005 with 5 participants, and in 2006, the group secured a permanent composition of participants: Mykola Rydny, Anna Kreventsova, Serhiy Popov. It's important to mention that Soska was not only an art group, but it was also functioning as an artist-run gallery laboratory and was opened in October 18, 2005. This happened as a result of the squatter of a one-floored house in the center of Kharkiv. For a long time, the Soska Gallery was the only center of contemporary art and culture in Kharkiv where exhibitions, concerts, and video screenings of the contemporary artists took place. In 2009, the Soska Group acted as curator of the international exhibition The New History at the Kharkiv Art Museum. The exhibition was censored and closed by the sole decision of the museum director, Valentina Mizkina. Later, the Soska Art Group created a video instead of excursion, which is based on documentation of the ban of the exhibition. In the video documentation, Valentina Mizkina is trying to take away one of the works while saying, "Who believes it to be important? Take it away. What is this? Do you think this is art?" Apart from organizing exhibitions and art projects and actively working with an artistic community, Soska created several artworks important for contemporary Ukrainian art. The group started with more political actions in a public space. In their action, they held in 2006 artists in the masks of Ukrainian political figures, Viktor Yanukovych, Yulia Tymoshenko, and Viktor Yushchenko, with cardboard with the inscription "A piece of bread" and a mug of coins, walked through the streets of Kharkiv and Kiev. In this action, Soska continues its criticism of political agitation and political technological manipulations resorted in Ukrainian political elite. Another important work by Soska is a video documentation of the action Barter created in 2007. The artists traveled to a small village to trade printed copies of contemporary art by Andy Warhol, Sam Taylor Wood, and Cindy Sherman for farm products like eggs and potatoes. In short video interviews, the new artwork owners explain why they chose this particular piece and where they're going to hang them. In 2008, Soska created the artwork Dreamers. In a photography series and a video installation, the visitors could see the levitating models who visually belong to the teenage emo kids subculture. As artists stated, the work is a metaphorical reflection on Ukrainian and pan-European current social realia. In the framework of talking about self-organized art spaces, it's important to mention Kherson, a port city in the south of Ukraine. More particularly, Kherson-born artist Vyacheslav Mashnitsky, who, after studying in Odessa and living in Kiev and Moscow, returned to his native city Kherson, intending to develop cultural life there. His return happened in 2002, 2 years before the Orange Revolution. Since then, he has been popularizing and developing the local art scene, including, among other things, creating the Kherson Museum of Contemporary Art and creating the Polina Rayko Foundation. The Kherson Museum of Contemporary Art was founded exactly in 2004. Even though it may sound as if it is a solid, possibly governmental institutional project, in fact, the museum was actually a self-organized gallery space created in the apartment where Vyacheslav Mashnitsky had lived. The space became a platform to present new projects created by contemporary artists such as Stas Polizlovsky and Semyon Hramtsov and others. But the museum and the foundation were not only helping the development of the local emerging contemporary artists, but were also helping for research and preservation the cultural heritage of Kherson. For example, unprotected frescoes created by artist Polina Rayko in her house. The museum also became a hub for interchanging with self-organized art communities in other cities and independent contemporary artists from all over Ukraine. During Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Vyacheslav Mashnitsky deliberately stayed in his hometown to take care of the museum collection. At the end of October 2022, shortly before the deoccupation of part of the Kherson region from the Russian troops, the artist's relatives and friends lost contact with him. Since then, the search for the artist began and continues until now. Now let's move to the west of Ukraine to see how the art community was functioning there in the period between the Orange Revolution and the Revolution of Dignity. At that time, Lviv was and remains to be the important cultural center of the region. Even though the city was historically connected to Poland, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, during certain periods during the Soviet era, the history of the city and its citizens became much more complicated due to the strategy of assimilation that the Soviet government was actively carrying out. This complicated but also enriched the cultural context of the city. Lviv can count numerous important artists who were mostly functioning, or at least remembered, as individuals. Here we can name such artists as Andriy Sakhaidakowski, Vladko Styrko, Vladko Kaufman, photographer Andriy Bayarov, and many, many others, each of whom was influencing the community around them. But talking about direct community building, important for the contemporary state, and the most organized in the grassrooted artistic representation would be the art group named Open Group. Open Group was founded later than previous art groups in other Ukrainian cities that I mentioned previously. It was founded in August 2012 in Lviv by 6 artists: Yevgen Samborsky, Yuri Belay, Stanislav Turina, Anton Varga, Pavlo Kovac, and Oleg Berkovsky. The previous art groups were more provoking, actively engaging the public space and being political in a direct and apologetic way, whereas Open Group was also doing that, but in a more subtle manner, combining conceptual and poetic approaches. The concept of the group was sharing public space. Their artistic practice is based on the study of the concept of collective work. As they're saying about themselves, Open Group's work is based on research of the interaction and communication between people, artists, situations, and space. Open Group involves people who are not artists but participants in the project for a while until a project in which they are taking part is running. Group members have been running independent artist-run spaces such as Yefremova 26 Gallery, which was functioning for 1 year in 2013-2014, and Ditanpula Gallery in Lviv, which has been functioning since 2011 up until now. Probably one of the most popular projects by Open Group was the project called The Shadow of Dream cast upon Giardini della Biennale. It was created in 2019 and was presented at the Ukrainian Pavilion and the 58th International Art Exhibition La Biennale di Venezia, titled May You Live in Interesting Times and created by Ralph Rugov. In this project, Open Group claimed themselves as curators and mentioned that the participant artists of the pavilion are all Ukrainian artists. The group has been actively functioning up until now. However, the compound of the group changed several times. At the moment, at the end of 2023, the artists of the Open Group are Yuri Belay, Anton Varga, and Pavlo Kovac. But I want to mention one of the projects that happened in 2013 named Days of Apartment Exhibitions, which was organized by the Soska Art Group that was mentioned before. In 2011-2012, the group co-organized the Days of Apartment Exhibitions, a grassroots, self-organized cultural initiative that united the efforts of several alternative venues and associations in Kharkiv. Apartment exhibition, or flat or house exhibition, also sometimes it can be concert, or as it sounds in the original language, kvartirnik, is a term referring to the form of the exhibition that was popular in the late Soviet era. In Kharkiv, for example, kvartirnik was popularized thanks to the Kharkiv photographer Boris Mikhailov. This type of presentation was important for the community development, underground activity that was happening behind closed doors because it did not correspond to the cultural policy of the Soviet Union. Kharkiv, as an important center of photography, began to use the idea to present the works in such a way by creating events where photographers were showing their way to provocative for the Soviet time images, using slides, a projector, and sometimes accompanying the event with music played in vinyls. During the project Days of Apartment Exhibitions in 2013, both art group Soska and Open Group had a video call where crowds of visitors could see and communicate with each other digitally. Even though in the independent Ukraine there was no such a need to stay underground anymore, the lack of professional artistic education in contemporary art and finances for the development of the artistic spaces and art institutions where the emerging artists could show their work, the projects were staying in such a grassrooted phase, not moving far from the Soviet period in terms of the form of the artistic representation. This project was happening in 2013, right before the mass Maidan protests had begun following the Revolution of Dignity that happened the next year.